Brad, Ben, thanks so much for being here with us today. I wanted to start by actually asking you guys to kind of give me the pitch. So I live in Silicon Valley. I've been here for a long time. What can you say to me to get me to move to Tulsa or to West Virginia? And I'd like to start with you, Ben.
Sure. So Tulsa Remote was a pioneering program in 2018 when we launched with the pitch to remote workers from across the country to join us in Tulsa. And we were overwhelmed by the response from day one, really. 10,000 applications in the first 90 days. And we've not looked back since. And we've brought over 500 members to Tulsa over the last 2 years with a retention rate of over 90%, which is probably the thing we're most proud of. And we were able to introduce them to a vibrant and inclusive community, which is my hometown. And it's been an incredible journey ever since. And we look forward to many more along the way.
And what's the selling point? You know, I know that you're incentivizing people with money, of course, but tell me about the selling point for Tulsa.
Sure. So the $10,000 number obviously grabbed the headlines, but we believe it's so much more. It's really about the community in which we're able to integrate our Tulsa Remote members into. And so the ability to really showcase why Tulsa is a special community, building off of the 15 plus years of work that we have done to build Tulsa as a very vibrant and inclusive community with things like Gathering Place, which is a $500 million public-private park on the city's riverfront, or the arts district in our downtown community, or the fact that Tulsa has 2 James Beard nominated chefs last year. Those kind of hidden gem facts that, have the big city amenities, but the small town charm of Tulsa that really surprise our members. And then leaning into the fact that, they're a part of a community of over 500 people that also work from anywhere. And so having that ability to integrate them into this robust, vibrant community has just been what we believe the biggest selling proposition for our program.
Right. Brad, let's bring you in. I know that the West Virginia program is much newer and is just starting out, but tell me in your words, why should I move to West Virginia?
Well, I'll use the words of John Denver, almost heaven. It's clearly a place that has amazing people. I've often said if my car ever broke down, I'd want it to break down in West Virginia for 2 reasons. People are kind enough to stop and they're crafty enough to know how to fix it. And then the second is our natural resources. They're unparalleled in the United States, in some cases in the world. We have over 2,000 miles of whitewater density. We have the top 3 ski resorts in the mid-Atlantic states. We have 1.5 million acres of public land and 1,500 miles of trails. We have the highest technical summit to scale east of Wyoming, with over 3,500 ropes courses and 500 boulder climbs. It's just an amazing place. It's the place where the Mercedes-Benz World Cup for mountain biking will be held in 2021. So if you are someone that loves that entrepreneurial spirit, you love to be a part of a community, you want to be surrounded by natural resources that are unparalleled, West Virginia is indeed your home. Take me home, country roads.
So, and Brad, you are from West Virginia, but have spent a lot of time in Silicon Valley and elsewhere. You're not trying to replicate Silicon Valley, right? What exactly are you trying to do?
No, actually, in the state of West Virginia, from day one, when the Mountaineers settled the state, we realized we had to blaze trails instead of follow paths. So that entrepreneurial spirit has always been alive, and it's the core of the economy. What we have done is we've studied the best practices of others. We've studied Ireland and Israel, India and France, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Tulsa. And we've discovered the things that are happening elsewhere and said, wow, we have the capability to do those things in West Virginia with 2 unique differentiators, our people and our assets. So we're trying to reposition the state as the startup state. We're welcoming those that are fully employed who want to be a part of a contemporary, experience-driven lifestyle to come to West Virginia, to make it their home, and to be a part of this exciting new chapter that includes things like the Virgin Hyperloop and just an amazing set of new technology innovations that are happening all across the state.
So we've seen attempts to create entrepreneurial and tech hubs across the country, across the world. Of course, some work, some don't. I'm wondering if you could both comment on the impact that the pandemic has had on these efforts in your specific regions. And Ben, I'm going to go back to you. I know that this program was well underway before the pandemic, but tell me about the impact of COVID on what you're doing.
Sure. So COVID obviously impacted each and every one of us. And for the Tulsa Remote program, we saw some really significant impacts. We saw 300% increase in the number of applicants that we have received since pre-COVID. In addition to that, we brought over 400 members during 2020 to Tulsa. And so as we think about the pre-COVID, post-COVID world, obviously work from anywhere has allowed so many more people to take advantage of programs like Tulsa Remote and really choose their geography in which they work and live. And that has been tremendously impactful for the Tulsa community at large.
Brad, what do you expect will be the impact of COVID and this work from home revolution or hybrid work revolution, whatever it looks like? What will the impact be longer term on the West Virginia program?
And Michal, I think it's going to be transformational. All of us are realizing it's not about reopen, it's reimagine and reinvent. If you think about the pandemic, it's been both tragic and it's also introduced silver linings. West Virginia was one of the last states, actually the last state, to record a case and one of the first states to emerge with vaccinations. We've seen a real increase in interest in West Virginia because of its outdoor assets. And going into COVID, roughly 23% of the S&P 500 employees were qualified to work remotely. As I sit with my peers in the Silicon Valley and with other CEOs in global companies as a member of the Business Council, that number is higher to 35 to 40% coming out. People want to find a place where they can live, work, and play. They want to be surrounded in a community that is full of kind and diverse people. And they want to have the opportunity to be a part of something new and fresh. And I think that's what West Virginia is really appealing to a lot of people.
So, Brad, I want to ask you, just push back a little bit, the narrative of West Virginia here. So, I understand, of course, the history, the pioneering history there. But in more recent years, I don't think the state has been synonymous with entrepreneurial spirit and technology and innovation. It's probably been synonymous with some other things that are more problematic. How do you change that narrative? I mean, it takes a lot more than just this program. So talk to me about some of the other initiatives in the state and what you think will be really impactful in bringing more remote workers there and in bringing more of an entrepreneurial spirit back.
Yes, and we're very clear-eyed about some of the reputation that we may have earned over the years, but we've also studied those who look like us and have emerged and created a new chapter, Ireland being a great example. You know, back in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, they had an industrial flight, they had brain drain, they had challenges with things like addiction, and they have reemerged as a Celtic tiger and one of the fastest growing economies, and those happen to be our ancestors. And so we studied those kinds of communities, the other ones I mentioned earlier, and we took a play out of their playbook. Often the best experiment to run is one someone already ran for you and proved that it could be true. But then the second thing is we recognize that our history was in the mountains, our future's in the clouds. And our engineering teams and our universities and our K through 12 school system and a lot of alumni, myself, John Chambers, Ray Lane, and others have come back to the state to say, how do we build the foundation to create the next chapter? And it's a combination of things that are attracting opportunities like Virgin Hyperloop. It'll be the new mode of transportation traveling at over 670 miles per hour. And it chose West Virginia over more than a couple dozen states to create its testing facility. We have a lot of startup activity happening, a lot of venture capitalists looking at the state, and I think we're in the early innings of an exciting new chapter.
Can you both tell me how these programs are financed real quick? Ben, let's start with you.
Sure. Tulsa Remote was founded and financed by the George Kaiser Family Foundation. The George Kaiser Family Foundation is a Tulsa-based philanthropy which seeks to provide equal opportunity for young children and to create a vibrant and inclusive Tulsa.
And Brad?
Yes, the initial funding came from my family foundation, the Wing to Wing Foundation, which I co-founded with my wife, Elise. That grant was quickly matched by the state, and a combination of the tourism department and the Wing to Wing Foundation has now created a program that we're excited will be moving into 5 cities, not one location, but 5 diverse cities in the state over the next couple years. And we'll hopefully bring over 1,000 remote workers to our state.
All right, great. Well, I want to thank both of you so much for joining us and shedding some light on these 2 programs. I'm guessing people, if they're interested, can sign up for both, right, and apply.
Our first round of applications will be coming out in the spring, so make sure you get in line. We're excited to accept you to our home state.
And Ben, you guys are accepting applications as well?
Yes, TulsaRemote.com.
All right, thank you so much.